What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a second look of sorts at Of Ash and Steel, an RPG very much so in the vein of things like Gothic that released last November, which you may or may not remember my review of because I wound up having to just straight up not recommend this one, and that was because it was unfortunately extraordinarily buggy. After about 90 hours, the final sequence bugged out on me and I was just unable to finish the game, and so I couldn't recommend it as a result. But it did still have a bunch of things I was interested in, and I was hoping that with time it will have gotten better. And while it has not improved as drastically as I may well have hoped, it is honestly a bit better, and I want to go over a lot of those changes since that review and talk about what you could expect now. Before we dive fully into this, let's go ahead and just address the elephant in the room. I know at least a few of you are sitting here thinking, Mortem, I know for a fact it's actually been closer to 5.5 months. To which I would like to reply that you are an idiot head, so I bet you feel pretty embarrassed about this. In all seriousness though, Of Ash and Steel had a lot of launch problems. The bugs I mentioned with the end sequence that could happen to people. Under certain circumstances, the entire main city could just disappear. It was also possible for quest items and NPCs to disappear as well, and they've at least made an attempt to address a lot of that stuff. Now, I will say this most recent patch, 1.07, which happened just a week or so ago, does seem to have introduced a slight problem, which is that it seems to have made some people's older saves crash when you load the game up, though it seems a bit inconsistent. Not to mention all the little bugs with various quests that could pop up and cause issues. And while it has taken a while, they have gone about trying to fix a lot of that as well as introduce new features along the way, which I'd like to get into obviously with this video. But let's start with 1.05, the first big patch after my review happened, which is the patch that addressed, most importantly, the disappearing quest items, which could cause obviously big progress blockers. They also introduced the debug console. They have iterated upon it since its initial release in that patch. However, what you can do is potentially replace any items or NPCs outright with that console. They've even went so far as to provide codes and stuff. They've also added commands to edit stats and perk IDs and everything in an effort to help people actually fix these things. They also use that patch to address a bunch of different memory leaks and things that were contributing to a fair bit of the crashing, and I will say it does play a bit smoother now, alongside trying to fix all of those most critical quest bugs that people were running into, and also messing with some of the logic of certain things. For instance, the guards, if they see one of their fellow guards being attacked, will now join in rather than just watch you fight them. They got crossbows working, which just wouldn't fire when the game initially released. They updated the durability of lockpicks. Lockpicks were very easy to break initially, and the lockpicking system wasn't exactly super fun. On top of increasing that durability, they also made it to where your minimum dex stat would actually just auto unlock these things if you had the lockpick skill based on the dexterity that you had. Initially, 30 would unlock everything, but then they tiered it. 30 will unlock the easy locks, 40 the medium, and 50 the hard ones. And they also introduced some critical quality of life stuff. Like, for instance, when the game first launched, it was really easy to accidentally steal things because the pick up and the steal prompt did almost nothing to differentiate themselves visually, and so it was really easy to pick things up and get a find that the game wouldn't tell you about without even realizing it. Now, not only are these items marked bright red so you know you're stealing something, you'll also, if someone sees you doing it, accrue a fine that the game will actually pop up on screen with a big red banner showing you how much it is, and when you are talking to guards to pay that fine, they will also tell you how much it is. They've also adjusted the exact pricing of these fines so they're a little more reasonable, and they also did a similar thing with merchants. So there are merchants you can sell your goods to just in bulk via a dialogue option rather than opening up the trading menu. Now they've added a bit of UI here that will show you everything you are about to sell when you mouse over that option. Another really critical thing they did that still helps no matter what is that they added a town map stand to basically every section of the main city. This is really important because in the base game game, even if you got your map, which you do after Act 1, there is no map for the city proper, and especially when you first go there, it can be a really big and confusing place to try to navigate, and these standees really help alleviate some of that, because even once you got your map, it didn't help you in the city. Probably also worth a mention then, I'm not exactly sure which patch added it in particular, but it is also possible to choose to start the game with the map just automatically available, even though you would normally get it roughly a little ways into Act 2. Now you can just start the game with it if you would prefer. You are supposed to be a cartographer after all. Now that was the first big patch. The next one is actually 1.06, which was just a couple months ago back in February. This one was a little smaller, but also introduced some really important stuff, mostly continuing to work on the memory leaks and the crashing, while also introducing a place to report things in-game via a feedback menu that would be sent to the devs, alongside crash reports via just the Unity engine. This is also the patch that adjusted the way the late game teleportation worked. The initial game's fast travel wasn't super fun. It unlocked very late into the game, and it worked not great in the sense that you would unlock all these fast travel points, but all they would do is teleport you back to the central location. That is to say, all of them teleported you more or less to the center of the island you're on, and you couldn't go back to the other points from this place, which was pretty useless. So they updated the teleportation to work probably how you would have assumed it would have worked, which is you being able to teleport from any other teleportation place you have unlocked. The rest of this patch was mainly further fixes to various quests and problems, alongside adjusting crafting in particular. There is a sort of in-game crafting thing you can do where you can make your own legendary weapon of sorts, and while those weapons worked and everything, they had a lot of very messed up animations and the like, and so they fixed a lot of that stuff with this patch as well. But then there is the most recent patch, 1.07, which happened on April 27th, about a week ago. This one introduced a bunch of different things to the game, namely a new in-game dungeon called the Prime Strider's Dungeon, which you can jump into and explore, hoping to find Lazar stones. You can exchange these stones for an upgraded bit of armor that you can then use crafting to combine with your faction armor to make what I believe is most likely the best set. So there is just some straight up content added with this one. However, there's a lot of other things as well. They introduced a bunch of new hairstyles. Once you get to the main city, it's possible to change your character's hair and beard. They added a bunch more options. They also added a universal stash, so in places like inns and your home, that kind of thing, you can get access to a universal stash, which will be available anywhere you find one of those. They also introduced normal early game fast travel via the wagons. You can basically pay someone to take you somewhere, and while it is a little expensive, it does give you a better option of getting around quickly in the early game before the teleportation becomes available. In addition to the map standees they added to the city, they also introduced sparrows in the city, these being city guides who will basically navigate the city for you and kind of show you where to go, alongside a bunch of other quality of life things, like for instance introducing a bit of quest structure, if you will, to the in-game journal, trying to show you who gave you a quest, where you picked it up, that kind of thing. They also introduced an in-game glossary as well as an in-game help system to try to, of course, help people with anything they may have missed, alongside more and more quest fixes. Now, a couple other things I want to mention that I was not able to nail down to a particular patch. Like, for instance, at some point they drastically changed the experience and progression systems, and I'm not exactly sure which one it is. I think it was this latest one, but I'm not entirely sure on that. Basically, you're going to level up a lot faster because they adjusted the experience curve, and in order to go along with that, now every time you level up, you gain 2 attribute points, and then every other level you gain a skill point to go learn abilities and, improve things Gothic style. Meaning that you are leveling up much more often and still having a lot of things to do in the meantime, and that, in combination with things like the map and the difficulty options at the beginning of the game, I think will give people a smoother onboarding to this experience if that is something they were after. Now, that all said, broad strokes in terms of how I think all of this has helped the game, I will say that it's still not a perfect experience. You're still going to run into some problems here and there, namely with things like older saves not really wanting to cooperate on this new patch. Some of mine encountered that problem, for instance. It's also certainly possible to still get stuck on terrain and things like that, but I will say the game is running much smoother. All of these quality of life features really do make a difference. I was able to actually finish the game finally. So long story short, things have gotten better, but there's still a ways to go. In fact, what I would imagine will probably wind up happening is that this will be a really good game to pick up during like the winter sales later this year when they've finished all of this stuff, as I believe they have a few more patches planned yet, which should probably then tell you that what has happened here is basically that with all of these patches since its release, I would go from just not recommending it at all to buy it on a pretty deep sale. It was never an expensive game to begin with, mind you. It was only $30 at full price. But ultimately, like I said, I think this is shaping up to be a great winter sale type of purchase for people. And I think if it had launched in this state, it wouldn't have quite had such a frosty reception. But they've still got some work to go, though I do appreciate that they have been working on this, because even with all of its problems at launch, I do think there is a compelling experience buried underneath all of this. And I think that's at least a little easier to see now. But that is pretty much going to do it for this particular video. Certainly hope you enjoyed it. If you did, by all means, like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.